Yeah, I mean, I think the failure rate is just extraordinarily high. So you have to be willing to do what 85% of people are not doing, right? If the failure rate is that 85%. And I think you really do have to truly eat, breathe, live real estate for 2 to 3 years.
You're listening to Real Estate Coffee Talk. I'm your host, Sarah Hilton, and this is your weekly live coffee date with the who's who from every corner of the real estate industry. We're Lindsey with the E. Oh,
Yes, let's do it with the E.
Lindsey with the E. I'm Sarah with the H. Welcome to Real Estate Coffee Talk.
Welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Are you drinking coffee?
I have my ice cold water waking me up.
You're healthier than I. Is it 8 in Austin?
It's 8. Yep.
Okay, it's 8. Austin's such a cool place. I think I've told you this a little bit in our DMs and stuff, but apparently, I mean, Charlotte's like a little bit of a hot spot, right? But I know so many people from like I grew up in New York. A bunch of them have moved to Austin. They're just straight up Texas people now.
Yeah, we have a huge influx of people from New York, from California, like predominantly those two. And then also within Texas, we have so many people that move from Houston and Dallas and like other cities within Texas that will come to Austin too. So it's a city of transplants for sure.
Right. We went there. My husband, his job does this big like convention every year, and we were there not this past summer, but the one before. It was really cool, like very cool city. Hot as hell, but that's how it gets here too. So, and I also know it, if you're a true crime junkie, for the what's her name, Caitlin Armstrong case.
Oh, okay. I do like true crime, but I don't know that I'm familiar with that one. Was that the biker?
Yes.
Okay, yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, I was like all
Yeah.
awesome and everything. Oh my gosh. Don't get me into the rabbit hole. Okay, but important stuff. Talking about you today, I'm really excited to learn about this and kind of what you're doing, because you are like a rocking and rolling and you're super young. And so I want to know how you did all of it. But before we kind of get into that, tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been in real estate, how you got here, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, of course, happy to. So I've been in Austin for around 11 years now. I moved here to go to UT as just an out-of-state student. I went and visited and I saw everyone in the pool in February. I grew up in Massachusetts and that was
Oh,
like
yeah.
completely not feasible there. So I'm like, all right, I'm sold.
Right.
Yeah. And so growing up in the Boston area, most people went to college out of state if they could afford to. And it was just very common. And then I started realizing everywhere else in the country maybe is not the case. So it wasn't a whole big thing for me to go fly halfway across the country to go to school, even though some people kind of perceive that as something.
Yeah.
It's something that people did.
Right.
And so I went to the school of 50,000 people. I didn't know anybody and had to make friends really quick and loved it, loved Austin, fell in love with the city as a whole. And so when it came time to graduate, I stayed here. And like so many other UT students, never left. Yep, got my degree in education, became a teacher for a few years, and then exited teaching after the pandemic hit, finished out the school year, got my real estate license, and have been licensed since. So I've been in real estate for now about 4 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay. First of all, that's so true about I just finished the college process with my son, so he's starting in the fall. And it's so true about like Northeastern schools. A lot of people leave because it's almost just as expensive to go to one of the schools home than it is to go halfway across the country.
It is, and it's just a cultural thing too, like, if you see
Yeah.
everybody in your class doing it, then you're like, "Oh, okay, I could do that."
I'm
Um,
good at it.
Also, like, Texas is known for having, on the grand scheme of things, affordable public schools that are
Right.
really solid options,
Right.
and in Massachusetts, you have one option, it's UMass, and
Yeah.
it's not that much more affordable than going out of state at all. So,
It's not.
yeah,
Right, that's what I've heard, yeah, so why not go try something completely like, North Carolina is similar to Texas where we have pretty affordable and good, university system, so my son's only going for about 4 hours away, but I love that you kinda started this whole new adventure. So, okay, so you were a teacher,
Mhm.
I can't imagine teaching during the pandemic because I was not a good home teacher.
Well, let me paint a picture for you, okay?
Yes.
Spring break, you are
Yeah.
like, finally, hallelujah, you're relaxing. You have a trip planned. It gets canceled due to this
Oh,
crazy thing that's happening. And then they're like, by the way, you're spending your spring break setting up your online classroom. And you're like, wait, what?
oh my.
And then they're like, all right, you're teaching 20 kids from the comfort of your home, literally from
What
sitting
what
right.
grade was it?
I taught
Oh
4th and 5th grade, so the kids were 9 and 10 years old. Some of
my
them
gosh.
turning 11.
Crazy.
Yep, and
Yeah.
so here's Google Classroom, like, figure it out, and
Right.
that was the hardest thing I think I've ever done.
Yeah, I can't imagine, like, I mean, I just watch my kids' teachers try to, like, navigate it. It's like or my son's, like, kindergarten, I don't even know. They stood on, like, a max an hour, but the kids were just doing the most random thing, and the parents as a whole I, like, shudder when my memories come up from that time. I'm like, "Ugh." That was horrible. Okay. But you took lemons and made them into lemonade, got your real estate license. So what made you like that's such a crazy pivot, right? So what made you consider real estate?
So, I think anything would have been better than online teaching, and I was already ready to make a change, and they
Mm,
had told us, like, "Next year, we're doing this." We're actually not sure about what we're doing, but we think we're gonna be doing this again. And the whole reason that I was in teaching is to work with kids side by side,
right.
and build those relationships, and that was really impossible, from
Right.
a computer. So, I thought, "Okay, you know what? I was looking to make a pivot anyways. Maybe it was a couple years away, but if there was ever a time, like, it's kind of now." Um,
Right.
in regards to, like, the real estate tract, my dad has been a residential real estate broker for almost 40 years now, and he has his own company back in
Oh,
Boston.
yeah.
So, he was always encouraging me to go down this path and thought I would be really good at it, and I was always telling him no, and I had no interest in it. But I had the time to dedicate since I was doing the online teaching to taking the courses, and I
Right.
thought, "You know what? Why don't I just give it a try? I'll take the courses. If I hate them, I hate them. It's fine. I don't have to do this, but if I actually like them, maybe it's something that I could pursue." So,
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. And obviously your dad was right. So shout out to Lindsay's dad. She's
Yeah,
great at what she
right.
does. She's great at what she does. Okay. So you did that and in just less than 4 years, which is usually where people like what I've seen is people either kind of fly or they fall, right? Those are like really like a really defining time in real estate, right? So in that short time, you've been able to be one of the top producing agents in the city. You won the NAR, or you won, right? A 30 under 30 NAR, recognized NAR 30 under 30, which is huge. So, what were some of the strategies like just starting off from teaching? I'm guessing you don't have a huge amount of connections in that city because you just went to school there or whatever. So, what were some of the strategies you put in place that helped you get where you got?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the thing is that I do know a lot of people from UT, so I did have a lot of connections.
Yeah.
However, I was 25 years old, and so those people were not buying houses, right? They were, they didn't even know
Chilling.
what home buying looked like,
You're right.
and it just wasn't a priority or in their minds. So, I knew in the back of my mind that, like, 5 years from now, everyone's gonna be buying houses, and I wanna set myself up so that I'm in the place where I have 5 years of experience. I'm
Right.
not that brand new agent anymore, and people could trust me to help them with such a huge purchase. So, starting off, I didn't know anyone that was buying houses, even though I did know a lot of people. So I had to meet people through other channels, and predominantly for me, the first 2 years in the business, those channels were open houses. So I was doing at least 2 open houses, if not 3, every single weekend, for at least 2 years. Yeah, over 100 open houses, and it was really exhausting, as you can imagine.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. But that's so genius. I know a girl out in this market too who's that's what she did. She did like 2 to 3 open houses every single weekend and kind of just launched her business like that. Okay, so with those open houses, right? Because I've done open houses in my day. I've
Mhm.
closed some deals from open houses, but it's not easy. So how were you able to do it? Was it just a numbers game? Did you have like certain strategy for converting those people?
It was both. It was definitely a numbers game, but I also was trying to be very strategic. Like, if I'm devoting 2 hours in this house and then really at least an hour of setup, tear down, putting out the signs in 100-degree heat, right? All of this
I was
stuff.
gonna say
It
it's so
it
hot.
really is like 4 hours a week per open house that you're kind of
Yeah.
devoting between planning which one you're gonna do, actually getting there, etcetera, printing out all the comps and familiarizing yourself with the home.
Right.
Then I need to be really strategic in my conversations that I'm having. So I would say 2 things that I did that kind of set me apart. The first was that I printed out all of the rest of the homes that were available in the area. And when people would come in, especially people that didn't have a realtor, of course, usually they're very hesitant to give you their contact info to talk to you. So I had that list and they would start looking at it. They would say, "Oh, this one's one of my favorites on Zillow. Oh yeah, I actually know this one," etc. And that's when I would say, well, these ones aren't having open houses. So there's no opportunity for you to go see them unless you want to go together. I'm happy to show them to you right after the open house. I'll be out of here in 20 minutes. If you want to grab a coffee, I can meet you there in 30 or whatever it is.
Right.
And that got me quite a few leads of people that said, "Yeah, we want to see those houses." And then while you're there, you're showing your value and saying, "Okay, why don't I check on the age of the water heater for you? Okay, what do you think of these things?" You're really getting to know them because you're
Right.
providing value. And there's no guarantee that these people would work with you. And there were definitely people that I did this with that then ghosted. But
Yeah.
I did get quite a few people that stuck with me to say, "Oh, why didn't I have a realtor before?" Or, "This is
Right.
way better than going to open houses."
Yeah, yeah, or didn't come across because I think some people, they just don't want to be sold to. It's kinda like when you walk into a store and someone immediately is like, "Can I help you with something?" And I'm like, "My god, girl, let me
Oh,
shop."
yeah.
But
Exactly.
if you take the time to take them on a house, then it kinda, like, removes some friction, which is nice for some people.
Exactly, and then for anybody that said like, "Oh, no, 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 I'm not interested in going to that," or, "We're really not there yet, we're just starting the process," or whatnot, then my next question was always, "Has anybody sat down with you and, walked you through the home buying process or educated you on what that looks like?" And I gotta tell you, basically no one. No one. Even people that had realtors that were working with them for months said like, "No, my realtor never did that with me."
Yeah,
And that simple question kinda, like, turned on a light bulb in their minds to say, "I could probably benefit from that. I don't know
right,
what I'm doing. That's why I'm here." And because
right.
open houses is mostly first-time home buyers that are coming in.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Oh my gosh, that's so good, such good strategies, and they're like little, like, simple tweaks or simple additions that really go a long way, I assume,
Really and
right?
truly, yeah,
Yeah.
and you know what? There were plenty of people that said no to both things, that then still gave their contact info that I added to my newsletters, that I've kept
Mhm.
up with to this day, and so if I left the open house with even just, like, one piece of contact info for one person, I still considered it a win.
Right, and it's just like you said, it's just really it's a game of
Mhm.
numbers, you know what I mean? If you can convert, like, 1% of the people in your database, right? If you're adding 5 every month, it's gonna take you a while to close a deal. If you're getting 50, if you're getting 100, then those numbers start to add up much faster. So, okay. So, I know, obviously you've worked with a lot of first time home buyers and like you've kind of built a niche around like that first time home buyers and move up home buyer. So, what are some of the ways that you kind of market to these people and you kind of build your like a strategy around this group?
Yep. So, yeah, it's definitely first-time home buyers and move-up buyers that I work with mostly, I would say, and part of that is my age. I'm
Right.
almost 30, so I'll be 30 in a couple months, and so that's really where people in my age are kind of, like, focused.
So old. Yeah.
Don't. I feel like we look like the same
I
age.
remember being about to turn 30. Those were the days. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, and then also too, I feel like, um, with these, I've also experienced some, like, recent life changes. I just got married, and so a lot
Oh,
of people that I was working with are either getting engaged or they're about to get married, and that propels them to want to buy their house, right? Like that's
Right.
usually the next step. So I was specifically marketing to those people, newly engaged or newlyweds that were in the same stage of life as me because I could really relate to them. And
Yeah.
also too, I think they're very focused on specific neighborhoods I'm very familiar with, and it just seems like kind of like my niche. So I was
Right.
specifically targeting those
And it
people.
becomes like your I mean, it's just your sphere of influence, right? Those are people you end up hanging out with usually because you're going to hang out with your peers and stuff. So it just becomes almost natural, right? So what ways like are you, I guess, finding these people? Is it natural like that, like your sphere of influence, or is there something like you're doing? I know you mentioned your email marketing. I know you have a good social media presence. So what does your marketing strategy look like?
Yeah, it's honestly a huge variety. It really is a lot of email marketing to the people that
Yeah.
I've previously met, or just anyone in my sphere. It's also like because I have such a big sphere, trying to go to any events that people have, whether it's a fundraiser or whether it's a birthday or whatever it may be. In terms of Instagram, I've done a lot of cold reach outs where I'll see someone that got married at my wedding venue and I'll reach out to them and say, "Hey, I saw you just got married at Woodbine Mansion. I got married there just a few months ago. Congratulations. I love seeing your photos." I know the natural next step for most people is to start looking into home buying. If you're interested in that, I would love to help you. Here's my contact. Here's all the homes that I've sold. Here are my credentials. Um, let's get together, basically. And that has introduced me to a lot of different people.
That's freaking genius. I love it. And I love that it starts because you're calling it a cold DM, but I mean it's nice because it starts with something that usually they want to keep talking about, right? They want to talk about that stuff. And it's something you have in common with them. So
And it
that's
is honest. Like I genuinely did love their pictures. And I genuinely
right.
feel like, okay, if you got married at the same venue, you have very similar vibes to our wedding. Like
Right.
we're probably going to be pretty similar. We're probably going to get along pretty well.
Yes, that's I love that. That is such a good one. Okay. So I know also you do a lot of events. So
Mhm.
what kind of like events are you doing? How do you kind of create that whole part of your marketing plan?
Yep. So my events started as just like a genuine love of hosting. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing I love more than bringing people into a space, especially into my home and
Mhm.
taking care of them basically. Like giving them food, giving them drinks, like making sure they're happy,
Right.
making introductions for them. I can't tell you how many times I've had people that have are friends of mine that have lost a job or job seeking or are really unhappy in their job and are considering other options where I'm like, you should come to this and meet this friend who works there.
Right.
I'm really fortunate in that like so many people that I know in Austin are so successful and they have jobs at these places that people would kill to work for, right? Like
Right.
Google, Meta, TikTok, like all these places that, and I'm like, talk to them. They recruit. Like this friend's a recruiter for this.
Yeah.
You should have a conversation with her. And no, I don't feel comfortable. Come to the party. Let me
Yeah.
introduce you. It'll be very natural. And you can just ask their experience, right?
Yeah.
So there's a genuine love of hosting and like a genuine passion for connecting people that started this. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's something I'm really, really good at that I also really love to do. I love nothing more than just being helpful.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's like the teacher in me.
Yeah.
So I started doing once a year. Actually, in college, I started doing a cookie exchange. And this stemmed from my mom, who does this and did this for my hometown. And it's bring 2 dozen cookies. You stay, you mingle. I provide food and drinks and everything. And then you leave with a tin and you've grabbed like one of each of the other cookies. So you leave
Yeah.
with a tin of all of this mixed variety. I think
Right.
they're becoming more common now because one of my
Yeah.
friends was like, I've been coming to your cookie exchanges for over 10 years. And I just got invited to 2 others this year for the first time. I'm like, oh, people are really, really
Everyone start putting it on TikTok and stuff. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So that's one that's more intimate and that's like ladies only. And when
Yeah.
I say intimate, I mean like I usually invite 50 to 60 people and usually like 30 people make it to my house. So
That's a
it's
lot.
it is.
Yeah.
And then the we do also an annual what was crawfish boil that has become shrimp boil. It's big in the South. I know
Yeah.
people have never heard of this. But crawfish really stunk up our backyard, so we pivoted to shrimp.
Right, right,
And with that, that's
right.
mixed gender, so it's not women only. A lot of couples will come to that. A lot of my past clients, in addition to friends, and we usually invite about 100 people into our backyard. And I would say probably like anywhere from 35 to 55 show up, depending on the year.
So I love that because I guess I had it in my head that you were doing like these like specifically real estate type of events, but really it's more natural. It's like around shared interest. Well, first of all, something you love to do, so that makes it not work, right?
Right.
But then it's also like just more of you building relationships with people and them just remembering you're an agent rather than them coming to something and knowing that they're about to get sold to.
Yeah, it's very true. And I would say too, like part of it is a little bit selfish because I do want to see so many people. I do want to keep up those connections. I do want to maintain my friendships. And it's like if I was going to have 50 coffees, it takes so much time. I mean, getting there, like
I
planning it,
know.
everything. This is a way where I can see and interact with so many different people in like a 3-hour time span. And no, we're not getting as much one-on-one time as if we got coffee together. But the reality is I, like, really don't have time to get 50 coffees a
I
day.
know.
So,
It
that
becomes harder and harder the older you get, the more responsibilities you take on in your adult life,
it's
it's
very true. I know.
yeah. Girl,
And
I've
what
been trying to get margaritas with my friend for like 4 months already. It's just
right.
like there's always something, so I get it.
Yeah.
But I love that because I think especially post-pandemic, people really need these ways to connect because we've become I was reading this article, I think it was in the New York Times or Washington Post, one of these, how America is one of the loneliest countries in the world.
Mhm.
And if you think about it, we like one of the big changes for me when I moved here from New York was like I was always raised in an apartment, but also we had, like whatever 400 families on a block, then
Yeah.
you always walk into the store, you're getting on the subway, you're like seeing people, interacting with people. When you live in this type of environment, you literally get in your car in the garage, push the button, come home, go back into your garage, or you just work from home all day. So when I was reading that article, that actually kind of spurred me on, like I got to get back to like doing some sort of like, because your life gets busy, but like sometimes if you don't do it, if Lindsay doesn't put together the shrimp boil or this cookie thing, everyone will want to do it, but no one will really start it.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and then people just sit kind of like in their loneliness and mundane life, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's so true, and I try to be, like, as inclusive as possible. If someone's like, "Oh, my friend just moved here," please bring them, right? And I've had
Yeah,
friends that have become really good friends. Even they just see each other once a year at these things or twice a year at these things. They're like,
right.
"Oh, I know you from the last one." Or
Yeah,
people that will connect that are both newer to Austin. They're like we said before, there's so many transplants here, and a lot of people are hoping that they get invited to these events so they can meet people more organically than like
right.
BFF or one of those apps.
Right. Which I saw a new one yesterday. I forgot. It's called like supper or something. Anyway, they actually have it in Austin. They haven't rolled it out in Charlotte yet. And it's like it's kind of like an app. You go on there and you can choose whether you want to meet with like your own sex or mixed or whatever, and you put in your interest, and they basically the app reserves you a dinner somewhere. You put like what kind of restaurants you like, don't like, whatever. Anyway, they like matches up this thing of like 5 or 6 women in a room that you have some things in common with, and it's just like a natural chill way to meet friends, which I thought was genius. I'm like, you need to come to Charlotte. But
I love
okay.
that idea.
Yes. Okay, sorry. I'm off on a tangent. All right. So, which of the aside from all that, which I'm sure generates like the majority of business, but I know you mentioned email marketing. Like, is that one of the marketing strategies that you use most, or that you rely on the most? And how do you use it?
Yeah, so I'm super grateful to my broker for this because he puts together everything for us.
Oh,
And so we're known as like the very local Austin brokerage. We're only in Austin. We don't plan to expand. Like We want to
Right.
become hyper local experts in Austin as a whole. And when I say Austin, I really mean the Austin metropolitan area, everywhere like the suburbs outside, up to an hour outside the city.
Right.
And so my broker puts together all of the data from the city from that past month, and we send that out in form of a newsletter. And
Yeah.
it's not like this fun newsletter of like events in Austin. It's like strictly like real estate data to say,
Right.
hey, I know you have Instagram. I know you have all of these other things that you could find out the events going on in Austin.
Right.
Here's for the people that care about the real estate market. And it's
Right.
very focused on that. And the click rate is huge. The unsubscribe rate is very low. So I'm really grateful that he basically gives that to each of us to send out. I can't tell
Right.
you how many people that message me back every month like, thank you so much for sharing this data, this was so helpful. And it helps people to make decisions because it's very much like, here's the months of inventory, here's the absorption rate. If you're a seller, this means X. If you're a buyer, this means X, or Y,
Right.
or whatever it is. um, so that is really really helpful, and that is once a month. And
That's
then
good.
yeah, and then in addition to that, we typically do seller updates. So we're sending people, hey, here's your direct vicinity of your house. Here's exactly what has sold. And some people want to receive those weekly. Some people receive those daily. Some people it's monthly. And so that's telling them and keeping them informed of what their home's value is. And that's something where we have a lot of interest in people that sign up for that too.
And I love like kind of the what you're saying as far as providing them with data, because I think it also gives like a factual like a factual understanding what's actually going on. And because I'm not one of these that is like the news is fear mongering, but like the news, no matter what side of politics you're on, whatever, everything has an angle, let's say, or they'll be like, oh my gosh, it's new first time home buyers will never be able to buy, affordability is crazy. But then when you show like the data, like, hey, people are buying every single day, and it's not just move up buyers. A lot of first time home buyers are able to buy. So, or home values aren't tanking. Look at what's happening in Austin. So I like that it gives kind of like a un like an unfiltered view of here's what's actually going on, which builds trust, I'm sure. And yeah, so that's really cool. Okay, so in your career, in your past 4 years, which the past 4 years have been wild, like in my lifetime, but definitely in the real estate market, and you just came into it. So, what were either some of the challenges, or what was the biggest challenge, and how'd you overcome it to kind of get where you are, which is not an average agent? You're well above average agent. How'd you do that?
Yeah, so my biggest challenge was when I started in the real estate industry in 2020, things were crazy. Like interest rates were so low. I was learning how to be an agent and how to serve people. And I was doing these open houses. So I was mostly working with buyers. And that was the toughest time for buyers because that was when we had the multiple offer insanity.
Right.
Austin was one of the places that just experienced an enormous amount of people moving here at the same time, coupled with our population is really young, on the young side. So all those people were buying for the first time and at that stage of life as well, coupled with the fact that people here generally make really good money and home
Yeah.
prices were much lower than they are now and like much lower than the national average. So it just caused this huge frenzy. And it meant like I was working my butt off to get buyers. And then I would get these buyers. And now it's like we have to get them under contract. And this is
Right.
really, really hard. Um,
Yeah.
so fortunately, it just took a lot of hard work, a lot of patience, and a lot more also to like skilled critical thinking around what our creative offers could look like and everything.
Yeah.
Fortunate to say we still got deals done and everything, but that was a huge challenge to overcome to say, I was the only one shouting, I want buyers. Everyone's like, I want sellers. I'm like, I'll take anybody, right?
Right.
I'm new.
Right. Right. And a lot of people, I think, at that time were, I mean, I know I worked with first time homebuyers, and it was similar here in Charlotte. Like everyone was moving the same time,
Yep.
and Charlotte was cheap back then, like the secret's out kind of. And it was frustrating because you'd be putting together, I had a couple who did everything right. They were in their mid to late 20s, had $100 and something thousand saved. They're moving here from New York, great credit, everything right. But but it was hard for them to keep up with people who are putting down like $80,000 in an earnest money fee, or investors who gonna come swoop stuff up in cash. Um, but the great thing is, like, all the lessons you learned about being creative and navigating around that, that will obviously help you from forever. So if you could survive that, because that took some people out, man.
It really did, and, like, one of
Yeah.
the hardest parts of the job is just having difficult conversations with people, and
Yes.
there were plenty of people where it was sad but true. It was like, "You're putting 3% down, and you're using this type of loan, and it's going to be really challenging for you. So,
Right.
maybe right now isn't the best time. Let's keep in touch, and then, like, let's keep sending you options, and when the time comes, like, I'm here to help." And there were plenty of those people that I then have since helped,
Right.
but if I hadn't have had the difficult conversation, we would have been struggling at it for months. They would have been so frustrated. It's, like, better to have the difficult conversations
Right.
earlier and set expectations than not.
And they wouldn't have understood, like, without a difficult conversation. I think people are afraid to lose the buyer, so they don't want to tell them, hey, this is a challenge, or like, maybe you can consider somewhere outside of the city a little bit. But without having those conversations, and people don't really even understand why they keep losing, they think it's you. Like, this girl cannot win me an offer. So that's actually good. All right, so people that are coming up, whether they're young like you or trying to get out into a second career, or just, at any age, just starting over, right? Starting something new. What's your advice for, like, not just surviving, but thriving as a realtor?
Yeah, I mean, I think the failure rate is just extraordinarily high. So you have to be willing to do what 85% of people are not doing, right? If
Right.
the failure rate is that 85%. And I think you really do have to truly eat, breathe, live real estate for 2 to 3 years, genuinely, where you don't really have much of a life outside of that, or most of your focus is placed in that capacity. So if
Right.
you're doing an event, it's for that reason, right? If you're having a Saturday, it's spent doing open houses or trying to get those people.
Right.
Um, and I think if you're plugging into a variety of strategies in order to meet those people, and you really are working 24/7, it would be tough to fail. I think with most people, they're just not willing to be working the true 24/7. They've come from a career that's 9 to 5. They really think that they're gonna keep that 9 to 5 kind of mentality, and that's not at all what it looks like for us. Um,
Right.
and I think for a lot of people, that's a big shock to the system.
Right.
I just think the way that I was raised was very much like, there will always be someone that is smarter than you, better looking than you,
Right.
there will always be someone that's, more connected than you. The
Right.
only thing you really have control over is your work ethic and oftentimes your attitude. So,
Yeah.
control what you can control, which are those 2 things, work your butt off, and then you really need to give it the appropriate amount of time, because I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many people I'm working with right now that I started these conversations when I got started, like, 4-ish years ago, um,
Yeah.
and they're just now transacting, and that was a very long sales cycle, right?
Right. And then did you notice that, because I've heard this before, like the first couple of years, you really have to go, like, for lack of a better term, like balls to the wall the first few years. But then it's like, then it starts not coming to you, you're still working hard, but it becomes a little bit easier. Have you noticed that in your 4 years?
Absolutely. I would say that's the number one reason that I post to social media.
Yeah.
On my personal page, I don't post very much, and I know you're not supposed to have 2 pages, but for me, I have such a large group and
I have
network
space.
that's all over the country, and that's
Right.
especially back in Boston, and they don't
Yeah.
really care about the Austin real estate stuff. So,
Right.
I didn't wanna annoy those people, And I really wanted like a true page of, if you care about real estate, if you care about Austin real estate specifically, like here's what you would follow. And
Yeah.
I do try to incorporate myself a little bit, of course, but
Yeah.
I don't follow like the traditional standards of practice, in that you
Yeah.
have one page and you make 3 posts about yourself and 1 post about real estate. No,
Right.
Austin real
No, I
estate
have
is
2
very
separate
volume.
ones too. I have 2 separate ones too, because I feel like, well, first of all, I mean, I'm at the stage of life where I have kids, and like, just putting a public page out there with pictures of your kids is just kinda like, you just never know who's out there, so that's number 1. But also, like, with this industry, if you're working like a dog, you work at 24/7, that the time that you do have to yourself, or if I go on a trip, whatever, I want it for, like, me or my actual friends, you know? So, I'm with you on that. Okay.
Yeah, I think also too, it's like if you're posting every single day, and I have been trying to post at least 6 days a week for the
Yeah.
past 4-ish years or whatnot. It's so ingrained in people to say like, "Oh, real estate, Austin real estate, I'm thinking of Lindsey. I know her. I've seen her post for 4 years," right? Like,
Right.
she's not taking any breaks. She's she's out there every
Yeah.
day posting.
Posting,
And
yeah.
so that has also been like a very slow burn and long time process that takes a long time. But in that way, I've been reaching these people for a very long time. And hopefully in the next few years, everyone I know will have purchased something.
And you touched on one of my biggest, like, one of the biggest things I've noticed in real estate is that real estate agents, not all, but I've seen a lot, are a short-sighted group of people, right? They definitely have trouble, um, committing to like one thing over and over and over when they don't see results right away. And social media is one that, like, I've taken on clients where I've been like, hey, organic social media is simply brand awareness. Nothing more, nothing less. When they're like, how many leads am I going to get? I'm like, that's not how it works, right? It's an impression, but when you stick to it day in, day out, it's like that book, Atomic Habits. It's like these tiny little habits add up to now Lindsey has a massive amount of content after 4 years, and when people think of buying a house in Weston, they just think of you, and sometimes they call, you don't even know they've been watching your site or your content, right? Um, but that's like one, I'm like, if it, when it comes to their marketing, if agents can just get that one thing through their head, like, just pick a place to be and go on there minimum 4 or 5 times a week and do something.
It
It's just
is.
how it works. You know what I mean?
And when you
Like,
think about like the profile of like your typical realtor, it's like someone that's typically pretty impulsive, like you said, someone that's
right,
often not like sticking to the program. Like these are people that didn't want a 9 to 5, that didn't want
right,
a boss hovering over them. So like what personality type does that
right.
typically like lead to, right?
Yeah, it's
But then
true.
there's the other subset that's very much like, no, I don't want a boss looming over me because I know that I'm going to work 10 times harder than someone else. And I don't want to make the same money as the person next to me who's doing half the work.
Right.
Like the subset that I fall into or
Yes,
pride myself on falling into, right?
exactly. But those are the people that have done the best, you know, or have, like, you're so young now, but over time, you're gonna build, I already know just from being around you 30 minutes, like, you're gonna build a business. There's no way your dad has been in this 40 years and is still, sweating bullets to run to showings here and there. Like, you get there because you've built a business and not a job. And
Mhm.
the way you build a business is by building these, like, systems, tools, like
Yeah.
posting 6 times a week means you have a system. You're not just, coming off the cup of it. So
Sure.
I love that. Okay. So where will Lindsey be in 10 years?
Ooh. Let's see. So, I mean, first and foremost, like most importantly, I want to have a family
Yeah.
and I want to have a couple kids with my husband, who's
Yeah.
my main priority in life, right?
Right.
And that's going to be really important to me. That's going to also kind of shape how I think my business is run.
Right.
Potentially, that would lead to, right, either like a full time assistant or a full time buyer's agent, potentially, when I have those kiddos in tow. That's
Right.
partially why I've worked my butt off for the past, 4 or so years, and will plan to for the foreseeable future because I know I don't have kids and I know I
Yeah.
can't devote everything, anything and everything to this.
Yeah.
When that comes, I'll definitely have someone that's
To
adjacent
help.
to my business to really help out. Um,
Yeah.
Professionally, I really hope to be one of the utmost top producers in Austin, which those people are selling typically like 50 million plus a year. And
Right.
so it's an insane amount of transactions and volume. But that's the goal, is that right now I'm fine tuning all of my systems. Right now I'm getting everything in place so that it is very systematic, organized, and ready to go so that I can increase that volume and can bring someone else on in the future.
Right. And just like setting up your business to almost be more automated, like automate as much as you can. That way, when someone does come in, you're doing, because kids take up a lot of, time and energy, but you're able to scale your time because you have someone in place, but also your systems in place, which again is what I mean about like building a business
Yep.
and not a job. So, okay. Love that. Kids are so fun. I mean, enjoy your stage of life now. Enjoy. I am run ragged at this point. No, but best part of my life was my kids. And same thing. I built every job around like being able to be around,
Mhm.
but working stay at home mom. So I love that. Super excited for your future. I already know you'll be closing 50 million with my eyes closed. You'll be fine. So, if you have referrals in Austin, which I'm sure a lot of you do, so you can find Lindsey at Lindsey Sells Austin. Lindsey is Lindsey. Don't, if you find a Lindsay, block her. It's Lindsey Sells Austin. Or you can email her at Lindsey at Bramlett, BRAMLETT, residential.com. We're going to put all that in the show notes and in the comments so you can find her. But Lindsey, are you ready for a little bit of rapid fire questions?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go. Winter or summer?
Summer.
Me too, girl. Coffee or tea?
Tea. I don't love coffee. I don't really drink it. I grew up going to Dunkin's, by the
Oh,
way.
I was just about
By
to
the way,
say, excuse me.
what I don't know what I was doing. I was like, this is great. Now recently I've tried it out. I'm like, this is horrible. But it's a culture, it's a way of life there. You see this exact
It's so funny, and I mean, the Northeast is a whole vibe, and I love it so much. But like, I don't know how it is in Massachusetts, but it's like, okay, in New York, like coffee is such a big part of life. Same thing everywhere Northeast, right? And so every event, I mean, you go to someone's house, everyone's like, "Oh, you want coffee and cake?" Like that's the thing. And then you go to a wedding, there's coffee. Any party, there's always coffee and cake. Let me tell you how I have gone to weddings here and they will put out the cake and like sweet tea. And I'm like, what is going on? Or cake and no coffee. It's just like water, lemonade.
like, do you wanna keep people on the dance floor?
I
Like,
know.
we had
You even eat cake. It's like getting a donut with no coffee. Like, what do you? They
I
go
hear you.
together.
I hear
Yeah.
you. My husband's the biggest coffee drinker I've ever met. When I met
Yeah.
him, he was drinking 6 cups of coffee a day. Like, he's
Yeah.
insane.
That's me.
And yep. And so we had a coffee cart at our wedding because he loves that. And that was also for people that didn't drink
So
alcohol so
cool.
that they could still
Yeah.
have, like, fun beverages and whatnot.
Right.
We also had espresso martinis, and my neighbor did not realize that there was, like, an espresso shot for
Alcohol.
a martini. I guess he was up till 4:30 in the morning because he had 4.
Oh my gosh. There's this kind of coffee. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to send it to you for your husband. It's called Bustelo. It's I guess it's like Colombian, but I don't know. Puerto Ricans, we drink it. And I mean, my grandma used to give it to me like coming home from school. We had it was with milk. But I've given it to people here, like, oh, that's the coffee I drink. And they'll call me like, excuse me, how do you drink that? I was up all night. I'm like, "Oh, no, I will have black coffee, no sugar, and it's like espresso, really, and I'll just go to sleep." I'm just like, "Good night." I love it, but okay, I'll forgive you. Tea is alright. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Yes, girl, and I know you travel a lot, so
Mhm.
what's, like, the the best your favorite place you've ever been?
Oh my gosh, too many to count. We went to
Mm.
Bali for our honeymoon. It was amazing. Like the variety there from the beach to the jungle to the rice fields, all within like an hour. You got to
Oh
see
my
so
gosh.
many different places, so many different like climates, so many different just like everything. It was so
Right.
cool. And
So diverse. Love that.
yeah, we met the monkeys, which was like the highlight of the trip for me in the monkey forest.
Oh my god, that's so cute. Did you get to, like, hold them?
Yep, and we were like,
Oh,
yeah, we were like, "Hello."
I
I
love little
know,
monkeys.
and my husband got to drink, I guess, some of the best coffee in the
Alright.
world. So, if you're
I
into
love
coffee
that.
that much, you have to go.
I need to go to Bali.
Mhm.
Hello, where is my husband? We are going. Oh my gosh. Well, seriously, thank you for coming on. I love chatting with you. I love, 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 like, young people just taking advantage of their youth and just going crazy with it. I love it. Okay. Anyway, go follow Lindsey at Lindsey Sells Austin. Send her all your referrals. I know I will. And Lindsey, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a
I'll
blast,
take
and, I really enjoyed it too.
Yes, continued success. We'll be watching for you for sure.
Yes, likewise.
All right, girl. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Real Estate Coffee Talk. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to subscribe and leave us a review. It really helps. If you'd like to be featured on the show, you can get that information right in the show notes. Be sure to tune in next week for another new episode. And until then, keep your dreams big and your mugs full. See you next week.